Welcome to the part 2 of this Unity series on import code. Hope you love this channel. So today we are going to do a introduction to C Sharp and Unity API. What is an API? API is basically things that help you in making code. That's it for beginners. Let me show you. So you need to install another software called VS 2019 or Visual Studio 2019, and it is a big file. So if you haven't installed it yet, go install it first, then watch this series and come back. Okay, just don't go to another series. Okay, so yeah, when you have installed Visual Studio 2019, this is what is Visual Studio 2019, and it looks so intimidating. Like when you open a script file, it looks so intimidating. And
お前はもう死んでいる。何
how to make script file, I should also tell you that. Come back to Unity, and what you have to do is just go click right click in the asset section, and then click create C sharp script, and then name the script and click enter, and it will open in Visual Studio 2019. So yeah, let's switch back to Visual Studio. Yeah, boy, it's irritating at first for beginners, but anyway, you will handle it later on. So these using tags, you should ignore these at first. These are basically what works, how to make the things work. And ignore this public class player mono behavior. You just have to come here. Okay, so let's start coding. I'll delete this line. Okay, and I'll delete this line, and I'll also delete this whole thing. Yeah, this is a minimalist setup that will make you understand the concepts of C sharp and the Unity API. So let's do something awesome today, because this is your introduction to, of course, coding. So let's make some physics defined character, shall we? Of course we shall. So what we should do, we should make a rigid body. What is a rigid body? While Unity, rigid body is something that has physics applied to it. So any other thing, no physics. Rigid body, yes physics. And if if you know or if you play any game, you know that how much do you love your love towards physics, of course, in games like the rag dolls and stuff. So whatever, this tutorial is getting long. I should you know wrap it up quick. So yeah, so we will make a simple basic jump, you know not really anything big. So let's start and let's make the jump or whatever. So first we will, of course, define a rigid body. Like, what is a rigid body, or which rigid body are we talking about? Like this, that, what? Okay, so to define that, we will write public rigid body, rigid body, and name it anything you like. So I like a name which is RB, and I'm just going to do that. And the full stop for C sharp is semicolon. Continue on. So what does this mean? Public means that it is in the public domain. It can be accessed by some other script of your code. Then after public, you have to define the type. So our type is rigid body. What is rigid body? It's just a component. Okay, so it's not something like a script or anything. It's just a component, and this RB is the name. You can put anything in here. Just don't put spaces, or it will mess up. Again, let's go to the void dot update function, and we will write some basic things. So this update function, this void update, this runs every single frame. So 60 fps means that it runs 60 times in 1 second. That's that like that's why it is so useful, because you can do so much stuff continuously, you can handle input continuously, you can do anything continuously. So that's why you will use, you know, update a lot. So let's write a simple thing. So we will write an if statement. If statement says that anything in these brackets, if that statement is true, then it will run between these curly brackets. So if I write true here, then it will run here. Okay, so here the bracket condition should be true and it will run. So how to handle input now, right? That's the thing. To handle input, you can get like, something like this. So you will reference the input class. This is a class, and in that something we have two things: methods and properties. Properties are the wrenches and methods are these purple boxes. So we are going to use a method. Method is just like another if statement or something like a function, just like its name. So we will use a method called get button down. It is a really famous method to handle input. And if we do like something like this, now anything in this will, that will be the axes. So what do you know, what are the axes in Unity? So let's check the axes out. So you just have to go to Unity, then edit, and then go to project settings. Okay, settings, you will find input manager there. Okay, click on the input manager, then click on axes, and then you will get your axes. So there are many different axes. There is horizontal, vertical, and many different. You can add your own, in fact. So for this tutorial we are going to use the jump axis. You can edit all these axes. So let's use the jump for now. So we'll go to our Visual Studio again. Back to Visual Studio it is. So let's continue on. So we will use the jump axis. Okay, so if we press space, then the jump axis will be triggered, and then it will be true, the statement will be true. Then the statement, if the statement between this bracket is true, these brackets is true, then the things in these curly brackets will run. So what do you want to do with, what do you want to do now? So we should reference the rigid body right now, which has a name called, it is named RB. So we will reference RB. Now you don't have to reference RB. The name you have decided, reference that. If you have decided www, then write www. Okay, so I don't know, you can write QWERTY for example, you can write anything, just reference that later on, like I have referenced it here, RB. Okay, this thing above and this thing below should be same. Okay, so we'll use a dot, and we will use add force. Is there any velocity? Let's check if we have velocity. So we have velocity. Okay, so let's access that. So velocity is it's a property, so we have to change it with an equal sign. Okay, so we will use new vector 3, and we will write some random coordinates in here. So what do you think, what should we write? So let's go back to Unity. Yes, now in Unity we have to, we have to do more things. In fact, we have to make a 3D object called cube. So you can just go to this plus over here, where, and then just put it at 0 0. That's in the inspector. You have the inspector, just put it at 0 0. Okay, that's the best thing you can do. So when it's at 0 0, take the main camera. So I'm going to take the main camera. I'm going to press W, which will open the move tool, and I'm going to move it. And I'm also going to make this cube a little bit larger. So scale, I'll boost the scale up, again up. Okay, that's the wrong scale. Okay, this needs to be 1. Okay, this Z scale. Okay, now we have a good solid base. Now we need to add another cube which will be our player. So let's add another cube which will be our player, and we will bring it all the way over here. Okay, and so how does it look in our game scene? It looks good. Okay, it looks really good. So again, going back to our Visual Studio, let's program it completely. So yeah, we have to add velocity to a new vector 3. Means vector 3 is the coordinate system basically for vector 3 dimensions, 3 vectors. So and new is basically that we want to create a new vector 3. So let's continue on. So we will write 0f. F means this is a float value. That means it can contain, something like, like decimals, and it can go negative and all that. So it is good when you want to, for vector 3 you can, I think so, you can only use floats. So it's good. And floats have a lot of changeability. You can just change it up, you can add decimals and refine it a lot. So floats are good, but they are really large in size. So if you are making a huge game, then performance issues might be there using a lot of floats. So yeah, we are going to make a float of just say 200f. This is in the y, and for the z we will make another 0f and full stop. And what is it is going to do, that it is going to add velocity on the y axis by this amount, by 200 float. Okay, so I'm just going to save it, and it might be wrong, it might be good. So let's test it out in Unity. Back to Unity, let's go. So back in Unity, what we want to do is basically first go select your player. In my case, it's cube 1. I'm going to rename it to be, well, player box. I'm naming it. I'm renaming it. You can put any name in here again. You know. Now you are going to add a component which is a rigid body. So just go to the search bar and type rigi. When you till you type RIGI, it will come up, and just select the rigid body. Now take your player script in your asset section. I have named it player. You can name it anything, and just drag and drop that into the player box, or in your case anything. What is your player. Now it is asking for RB, which is our rigid body. So going to take you know I'm just going to take the player box and put it here. Okay, so I'm taking this player box and I have dragged and dropped it into the RB section. So yeah, it's done. Let's check it out if it works. If it doesn't work, then what's the purpose of making the game? So oops, now we have encountered an issue. What is that issue? It jumps too high, like it blows up. Mm, it's on the moon now, so we have to fix it. So what we can do, instead of this 200f here in the Visual Studio, let me switch it back. Instead of this 200f, we should make a public variable again. So we'll make another public float, and I'll name this speed. It's a bad statement because velocities aren't speed, but we are coding and we are sloppy. Okay, so we are going to do this, and we are just going to, instead of 200f, we are going to type speed, and we are going to save it. Go back to Unity. Okay, and I'm going to switch back to Unity. Now now in your what do you say, yeah, in your player, you will see the player script or your script has changed, and there is a speed variable now, or anything that you named. So I'm just going to boost it up, like, we'll test it. I think so a good 40.66 should be enough for now. It should give us a cool bump. Now let's test it out, and it's still too high, I think so. So you can just tinker around, go to a value which seems nice. Now 30, let's try 30. And it's not that wild now, but still it goes off camera. So now I leave it up to you. Find a good value which will keep it in screen and make it a Flappy Bird type thing, okay? Go ahead, I give you this work. So I will meet you in the next tutorial of this Unity series. Bye. Hope you watched the third episode, I guess.